begin tonight with our top story, mall mayhem, when an ex-gym employee opens fire, shooting two of his former co-workers.
This happening at the Village of Merrick Park in Coral Gables. Shoppers rushed to take cover, and they're posting the chaos on social media.
This was the scene over at Jackson Memorial Hospital as those victims were being brought in to get treated.
Coral Gables, Florida is home to one of the most renowned gyms in South Florida. It is less than 5 miles from downtown Miami in the Miami-Dade area. Equinox was no exception. When you worked out there, there was a good chance that you would run into a celebrity or politician or athlete. Equinox is the type of gym where you would go to work full-time as a personal trainer. Close bonds are formed where the personal trainers and employees would become a close-knit family, spending countless hours at the gym, working at the gym. However, there's still stiff competition. For trainers, they had to hit certain numbers and goals, which could be stressful with a low client base. An often said quote amongst some of the trainers, "It's not fitness, it's life," which is any personal trainer's motto that they follow, as well as any Gymshark. Equinox is located in Merrick Park, an upscale shopping mall in the area. However, on a Saturday afternoon, as you heard in that news clip, on April 8th, 2017, an ex-employee of Equinox returns to the gym after being fired just less than an hour before and opens fire on 2 employees of the gym. Welcome to the Campfire. Grab your s'mores and grab a seat. I am your host, Kevin. This is the Campfire Crime Chronicles, a true crime podcast. Thanks for joining me tonight as we get into the case of the Equinox Murders. As I had mentioned in the intro, being a personal trainer at Equinox can be stressful when you have a low clientele base. And if you're a new trainer working on building your clientele, it would definitely be stressful. As being a personal trainer, you don't get paid unless you have a client that you're actively working with at the gym. Clients would typically pay between $100 and $170 per session for trainers at Equinox. A new group of trainers would come into Equinox. Becky Wilson, Arthur, Julio, Angel, and Armand. Becky Wilson was born August 24th, 1983 in Boston, Massachusetts, to a Ghanaian father and American mother. He would receive a degree in business administration from the University of Miami. He would begin working as a personal trainer at Equinox around 2009 and was also proficient in several martial arts. It wasn't hard for Rebecca to attract clients, especially women. He knew how to work and get through to people that he was working with and training. He would also acquire some high-profile clients. Abeku had this ability where he would be able to reshape his body and physique pretty easily and effortlessly. When he began at Equinox, he was pretty lean and then would begin training and competing in bodybuilding physique competitions where he would start bulking up and building a lot of muscle in a relatively short amount of time. Abeku, in a relatively short amount of time, was earning more than the managers with his clientele that he had built up and was able to tailor his schedule to how he wanted, where his clients were able to train during the day and then he would have the rest of the day to himself. While going through a divorce, he often flirted with other gym members, clients, and coworkers. With the amount of flirting that he was doing, some people at the gym would call him a playboy. One way that the employees would relieve stress at the gym would be playing jokes and pranking each other. Not everyone, though, saw the humor in this and would take things a bit too literally. A couple of the other trainers would put pool noodles in Abeku's brand new car that he bought himself with all the revenue that he was bringing in from the people that he was training. So although everyone else saw the joke and fun in it, Abeku did not take it so lightly and ended up calling the police and filing a police report, which a couple of the trainers saw was going down. They quickly came out and admitted to putting the pool noodles in the car, and it was only meant in fun. However, Beku insisted on pressing charges, and the two co-workers were arrested. Although ultimately no charges were filed against the co-workers and the matter was dropped, but the damage had already been done. After tensions had begun to rise with Abeku and his co-workers, a new general manager would come in and work on defusing the situation. Janine Ackerman was a newly appointed general manager of Equinox in 2015. She had the ability to lower any tensions that may rise between coworkers from the education that she had obtained with her hospitality management degree that she received from the Florida International University of Miami. Janine is from South New Jersey, where she was one of 4 kids and grew up on a farm. She was one of those people who didn't mind getting dirty, but also could dress up for a formal occasion as well. Janine had a very personable personality that allowed to have deep connections with people and be able to connect with them. According to a documentary, Janine was a leader of people where her ability to connect with people would have them gravitate towards her. Janine attended college with a field hockey scholarship where she would earn a degree in hospitality and tourism management. Stephen Mole first met Janine at FIU as her academic advisor, as well as would teach Janine while she was working on her master's degree. The two would become friends. After college, Janine began working hourly jobs at hotels and would work her way up to being a supervisor of VIP services at the Fontainebleau Resort, which is one of Miami's higher-end resorts where celebrities and other high-class individuals would come to stay. As the general manager of Equinox, it was a dream job of Janine's, combining both of her passions for athletics as well as using her hospitality degree with people. Although, however, being the general manager also meant she had to deal with a lot of stressful situations between employees, clients, and other members. The Equinox family, a lot of the employees have worked together for 5 or 10 years prior to Janine's arrival, and having alpha male personalities, such as Abeku, which would pose conflicts from time to time. Janine was headstrong, though. With Janine's leadership, the incident with Abeku's car was shortly forgotten about, and the bonds were reunited, and the tight-knit family was once again whole. Abeku's attitude would become worse and more problematic for some management over time. It was thought that Abeku felt entitled to do what he wanted and would stop wearing the company t-shirt and would also begin poaching clients from other trainers, which in the personal training world and gym world in general, that is against an unwritten rule of that world. As Janine was becoming familiar with her staff's personality, she was also becoming aware of the issues with Abeku amongst the other staff. In early 2016, Equinox would receive a new personal trainer from their South Beach location to the Coral Gables location. Mario Ortiz. Mario was a model in his 20s and 30s. He traveled the world as a model and was on billboards. He had an economics degree working for a Fortune 500 company, but would trade that life to become a personal trainer, getting his certifications in yoga as well as meditation. Mario would have a management or supervisor position within the gym and was very well liked by members. He became another very popular trainer, much like Abeku, and would become Abeku's largest competition. Abeku was, in one aspect, a walking billboard for Equinox, who lived, breathed the life there, but at the same time, his flirting with other members and clients increased greatly after his divorce, which was an increasing problem with Equinox. At about the time that Janine was getting ready to step in and talk to Abeku about the flirting, he would shift his sights and focus on an upcoming bodybuilding competition. He's been doing a lot of prep work for this competition, training and building his physique and forms. He went into the competition expecting to place well, possibly win, and move up from the amateur to the pro division. Then, when he falls short of his goals, where he places fourth, it would hit him hard and he would spiral into a depression where he would start becoming angry and taking his aggression out on his coworkers, with one incident beginning on the basketball court. The trainers would play a weekly basketball game with each other, and in one of these games, Abeku had thought someone was playing dirty, where the confrontation ensued with one of the trainers. A couple of the other trainers intervened and attempted to calm Abeku down, where Abeku would just end up leaving. Janine would take note of this behavior and attitude change. Janine doesn't confront Abeku about the incident, though, at first. Instead, she digs into what might be causing his issues. She finds out that Abeku's recent girlfriend is cheating on him, but with his dating history, she feels that it's something more than a cheating girlfriend. She reaches out to Abeku's ex-wife, who also is a member of the gym, where she learns that Abeku's mother has terminal cancer, which we have to give Janine props for being such a great general manager and digging deeper into the issues that might be causing Abeku's recent attitude and behavior changes. A lot of managers wouldn't do that, but Janine was special. She definitely cared about her employees, and you could tell from her actions. Realizing that Abeku is going through a lot in life at the moment, she concludes that this is probably the reason for his attitude change and why his recent loss at his competition hit him as hard as it did. Despite management's working with Abeku as he's going through his rough patch, tensions are rising higher. There would be another incident and the problem would intensify. On April 3rd, 2017, Abeku was training a client and another trainer accidentally bumped into Abeku's client, which sparks a confrontation between the client and the trainer. The member believes that the trainer owed her an apology, which then some words would be exchanged, where then Abeku steps in and shoves the trainer against the wall. Mario steps in and diffuses the situation and separates the confrontation of Abeku and the trainer. However, Janine sees this and feels that the incident has to be reported to corporate. Corporate comes back to Janine, telling her that Abeku has to be terminated. Janine, realizing that Abeku needs to be terminated, it's going to be an ugly termination. Also, dealing with Abeku's popularity within Equinox from much of the staff and members of the gym itself. Abeku, during his time at Equinox, had built up a reputation as one of the most starred and popular trainers at the gym and used his social media to bring in clientele. However, with the workplace violence incident, corporate instructed Janine to fire Abeku by the end of the week, which, remember, the incident took place on Monday, April 3rd. Before confronting Abeku, though, Janine calls his ex-wife to find out his state of mind. She would tell Janine that Abeku became violent and aggressive during the divorce, which she advised Janine to have security present when he's terminated. Although there's a security guard on duty, with Abeku's martial arts background, She would err on the side of caution and request additional security to be present during the termination, as well as another manager present who would also add support as well as being a witness at the termination. Janine would ask the PT manager to be the other manager when she goes to fire Abeku. The two agreed to do the termination on Saturday after Abeku's class that he was scheduled to teach Saturday morning. On Saturday, Janine arrives about 10:30 a.m. and the plan was to fire Abeku at 11 a.m. after his class. Janine calls security to confirm that the extra security is still available for when she needs them to fire them at 11 o'clock. Then around 10:42 a.m., Janine receives a text from the manager who's supposed to be with her when she goes to terminate Abeku, telling Janine that she's running late. So now Janine's well-placed plan is starting to unravel. Janine quickly finds another manager and asks Miles Pimataro, which he agrees, but informs Janine that he had authorized Abeku to have his class go for an extra hour, which would let out at noon. So Janine would call security to make sure that the extra security is still available at 12 p.m. when Abeku's class lets out. At around 11:40 a.m., Abeku's competition, Mario Ortiz, who is the other star trainer at the gym, arrives with his girlfriend before Abeku can be fired. The plan Mario had was to teach his class at 1:30 while his girlfriend was in the spa. When Abeku's class lets out, Janine requests him discreetly to join her and Miles in the office, where she wouldn't waste any time telling Abeku that he has been terminated. Janine was the kind of person who was very personable and compassionate, but when she had to be hard and fire somebody, she was that also. She breaks the news to Abeku as easy as you could when you are firing someone. Being completely blindsided, Abeku starts to become emotional and takes offense that security was called, which at the time they escort him out and off the gym property. Abeku would leave at this time peacefully. After Abeku leaves, Janine calls her fiancé for emotional support and just to let him know that it was over and it went a lot better than she had anticipated. On his way out to his car, one of Abeku's friends and fellow trainers, Warren Heck, offers support to Abeku, which after talking with Warren, Abeku receives a call from Julio, also offering support to Abeku, at which Abeku tells Julio that he left something in the gym and was going back in to get it. Julio had a bad feeling about this and warns Janine that he was coming back in. Mario comes by Janine as support in case of any situation would arise with Abeku. Abeku claims that he left his bag in the gym and wanted to retrieve it. However, both Mario and Janine told Abeku that even if he forgot something, he couldn't be back in the gym. So after those few brief moments, Abeku would leave without incident. When Abeku returns to his car, he grabs something, and then he returns back to the gym, but this time entering through a back door by the offices, and would work his way up to the front of the gym, according to reports, where he finds Janine standing at the front desk. Abeku would open fire on Janine, shooting several times. Mario would rush up to the front desk to assist Janine, of which Abeku would shoot Mario in the back twice, according to reports, and then shoots Mario again while he's on the ground in the back of the head. It's natural to want to help a victim of a shooting, but if the shooter is still there and you're in each other's sights, then go after the shooter before providing aid, because you're going to probably be shot anyway, but at least if you go after the shooter, then you have that chance of disarming them and taking them down so that to provide aid to any of the victims. After shooting Mario, Abaku continues to work his way through the gym, and word gets through quickly that Abaku is on his way to the back towards the locker rooms. The women in the locker rooms, including Mario's girlfriend, are told that there's an active shooter, of which they would leave the scene seeking safety elsewhere in the mall. Management from other shops at the mall would activate the mall's emergency alert system. So now there's a couple of reports for the next account of what happened. According to both the dailycrime.com and CBS News, a security officer at Merrick Park would hear the gunshots and would work his way into the gym. It was said that Abaku saw the officer and would run into the bathroom where he would then shoot himself. The other report, according to the documentary, was that Abaku was working his way towards the back of the gym where he was looking for Arthur Gibson. Abaku would run into Miles and ask him where Arthur was. Arthur was a good friend of Abaku's, where the two went to college together, as well as both started at Equinox together. However, it was believed, according to the reports, that Arthur was also involved in Abaku's firing, or at least that's what was believed by Abaku. Because of this, Arthur was possibly a third target, but had already escaped and was not found by Abaku before Abaku had turned the gun on himself. Before turning the gun on himself, Miles would attempt to calm Abaku down by telling him that he didn't have to do this. And at that point, Abaku would raise the gun to his head and take his own life. Miles would run up to the front to check on Janine and Mario. Mario was still alive when he would arrive at the hospital. A witness, Evan Lee Bestos Klein, would state that on Saturday before the shooting, she would tell the Miami Herald that she had trained with Abaku prior to the shooting and seemed fine and not distracted, where she would state she didn't notice anything unusual about his behavior. However, this was prior to him being fired as well. However, according to other witnesses who were familiar with Abaku, they made statements on their accounts of how they observed Abaku on Saturday prior to the shooting. They would state that he wasn't himself where he normally was, dressed clean-cut and dressed accordingly, came in unshaven and wasn't acting himself. One witness stated that he had bumped into him, and Abaku apologized, saying it was his fault that he was tipsy that day, and also noted that his speech seemed to be slurred. Police would quickly arrive and secure the scene, where first responders would be able to attend to the victims and their injuries. Both Mario and Janine were airlifted to a nearby hospital. Outside, Miles' girlfriend was finally allowed back in to get her belongings, and constantly calling Mario to see if he was okay, unknown to her that he was one of the victims. Then police would tell her that he was one of the victims and offers to drive her to the hospital, where both him and Janine were brought to. At the hospital, surgeons would remove 2 of the 3 bullets in Mario, but ultimately Mario would die of his injuries. Mario Ortiz was 42 years old when he died. As word spreads throughout the greater Miami area, Stephen Mole receives a call from one of his colleagues from the university and would tell him about Janine being shot. By the time he got home, Janine had succumbed to her injuries. She was 35 years old when she died. An investigation was in full swing of the shooting back at the gym. There wasn't any question or doubts of who had done it. Being a crowded gym, there wasn't any short of witnesses. However, police and investigators were looking for the why. Abaku had this great and successful career and life on the surface. However, it's hard to tell what he was dealing with from his inner demons, his mother with terminal cancer, plus the aggression and violence towards his ex-wife during the divorce, which the aggression and the violence could have been stemmed from his mother's diagnosis if it had happened around the time of the divorce. We don't know. It seems that Abaku didn't share much about his personal life or issues, with what he was dealing with amongst friends at Equinox. A candlelight vigil was held at Merrick Park for Mario and Janine. At the time of the shooting, fans of Abeku were in disbelief on social media. Going through some of Abeku's Instagram page, a lot of the comments were about individuals who found the page after watching the documentary on the ID network, Killer Bod. There was comments that Abeku's anger and aggression issues were from roid rage, which is quite a possibility as well. It's not uncommon for bodybuilders to use steroids, so this theory is quite plausible. Although I wasn't able to find any reports or autopsy reports about Abeku using steroids, I did find a certain steroid that in a study showed similar results that was witnessed with what Abeku was showing. Anabolic steroids, which is also known as anabolic androgenic steroids or AAS, is a steroidal androgen that includes natural androgens such as testosterone, as well as synthetic androgen that is structurally related and have similar effects to testosterone. They increase protein within cells, especially in skeletal muscles. A 2006 study of two pairs of identical twins, in which one twin used AAS and the other did not, found that in both cases, the steroid-using twin exhibited high levels of aggressiveness, hostility, anxiety, and paranoid ideations not found in the control twin. A small-scale study of 10 AAS users found that cluster B personality disorders were confounding factors for aggression. The effects of AAS is similar of the behavior, attitude, and aggression witnessed of Abeku. So that concludes this case at the campfire. All resources used to gather the information for the case include, but not limited to, news articles, reports, documentaries, as well as other sources. I appreciate everyone who has gathered tonight for this case. Also, if you'd like to listen to ad-free shows as well as bonus episodes and also to get a shout out on the podcast during the most recent episode, then sign up and join me over at the Bonfire. You can find the Bonfire over on Patreon where there are different tiers that you can choose from. As the podcast grows, more tiers will be added. I appreciate all the support from all the listeners and supporters. Also, if you wish to support the show and not necessarily sign up for a subscription, you can support the show through the Campfire S'mores Fund found on the website campfirecrime.chronicles.com. A link will also be provided in the show notes. Also, tell all your friends and family to tune in and check out the podcast anywhere they listen to podcasts. The greatest support that the show can receive is by telling everyone you know about the podcast and letting them know to check it out. So join me next time in 2 weeks as we gather around the campfire for the next case that we dive into. Remember to sleep with one eye open. This is the Campfire Crime Chronicles, a true crime podcast.